and good looking. In Exodus, we meet Zipporah, the Ethiopian daughter of Jethro. It was to Jethro's home that Moses ran to flee the wrath of the Pharaoh. And so he ended up getting one of Jethro's daughters. And in that, she was a black woman, and he married her and had 2 sons, Gershom and Elazar. It is known that Moses married a Cushite woman. Cush was an ancient name for Ethiopia. And we learned that Moses' siblings, Aaron and Miriam, for all of their faith, objected to him marrying a black woman. And God was not pleased because God had ordered that marriage.
All right.
And if Miriam was so hung up on whiteness. In Numbers 12:10, we read, when the cloud removed from over the tent, behold, Miriam was leprous like snow. Lest we forget. In Genesis, we meet Ham, who was the son of Noah. In the Jewish faith, Ham is considered the father of the black race. He helped his father to build the ark. His children were called Cush and Mizraim, Put and Canaan. And they came to inhabit lands in the Middle East and Africa. Of course, like so many times, we want to blame Ham for looking at his father's nakedness. But it was Canaan who was damned, not Ham. And it is in the scripture that we hear it said that God blessed Noah and his sons and told them to be fruitful and multiply. Not everybody except Ham. Ham was as blessed as all of the children of Noah.
That's right.
And then we look at the Pharaoh. Our children have come to believe that Pharaoh, the only one that they know, is the one who fought Moses letting the children of Israel go free. But we are throughout the scriptures.
That's right.
There was the Noah who took Sarah from Abraham. There was the Pharaoh who reigned when Joseph was prime minister. There was the Pharaoh who reigned when Moses was born, and whose palace Moses grew up. And there was the Pharaoh who was king when Moses was fully grown. There was the Pharaoh who persecuted the Israelites and whom Moses and Aaron challenged. There was the Pharaoh who reigned in the days of Solomon and whose daughter Solomon married. There was the Pharaoh who was the king in the days of Isaiah. There was a Pharaoh in the days when all of us were being thought of. And remember that it is Africa that is the cradle of civilization. Lest we forget. Nimrod. We meet in Chronicles and Genesis, who was a grandson of Ham. Nimrod was the son of Cush, the grandson of Ham, and the great-grandson of Noah. He became the king of Mesopotamia, which is today called Iraq. The Bible states he was a mighty hunter and before the Lord. He is said to have founded the towns, some of which you may have heard of, Nineveh and Babel. Lest we forget. In blacks in the Bible, Simon the Canaanite is said to be the only black apostle of Jesus Christ. Say it again. All right now. In blacks in the Bible, we've got to read something about our state. Okay? Simon the Canaanite is said to be the only black apostle of Jesus Christ because the Canaanites were descendants of Ham. He converted to the nation of Israel to become a Jew through the article of circumcision. We meet him in Matthew 10:4 and Mark 3:8. He received his call to discipleship along with Andrew and Peter, the sons of Zebedee, Thaddeus and Judas Iscariot. Lest we forget. And then on that momentous occasion, when the Lord was preparing to give his life so that you and I might have a right to the tree of life, there was a man named Simon the Cyrene, a man compelled by the Romans to carry the cross of Jesus as Jesus was taken to his crucifixion. Cyrene was located in northern Africa. eastern Libya today. Some historians claim Simon was singled out because of his clothes. Or they say he was a part of the Jewish community in Cyrene. But black historians point to this land of origin, and they say he was singled out because he was black, as were all of the people of Libya. The Cyrenian movement began in the United Kingdom and Ireland, whose guiding principle is sharing the burden. And that is what Simon the Cyrene did in helping Jesus to carry the cross. Lest we forget. Oh, there are a plethora of others, but I want you to understand that as we teach our children, help them to understand that the Bible was not just a white person's document. We are white. Well, I can talk about Bathsheba's son, King of Solomon being black but comely. I've already told you about that. But I think it's important that we understand the history of black folks in America has been likened to that of Hebrew children whom we study routinely in our churches. But we set aside this month to study our own history. As the Hebrew children were taken from a great nation and enslaved, so too were we taken from great nations on the great continent of Africa and enslaved. Africa is a continent today which consists of 54 nations, including the island nations that surround it. Each nation had its own language, its own leaders, its own cultures, and its own mores, just like on the continent of Europe. We don't have any problem realizing that in Spain they speak what? Spanish. In Portugal they speak Portuguese. In England they speak English. In Sweden they speak Swedish. What is the problem with us understanding that on the continent of Africa, each one of those countries spoke a different language, thought differently, acted differently, instead of relegating us to something stupid like, they couldn't get along in Africa. And why they can't get along over here? You've heard it.
Stand up. Stand up, sir.
Amen. Lest we forget. They must also be taught the greatness of the achievements of dark-skinned folks from that continent. The president recently referred to them as S.O. countries. Well, let me tell you that from Africa came magnificent architectural structures, including 2 of the 7 wonders of the world. The Lighthouse of Alexandria, and the only one of the ancient 7 wonders of the world to still survive, the Great Pyramid of Giza, as well as the magnificent and still existent Great Sphinx of Giza. From this continent, speech was first developed. Paper was invented. From this continent came the development of mathematical concepts such as division and multiplication. Geometric concepts and the calculation of area and volume came from the continent of Africa. So there's absolutely no reason for our children not to excel. Not in these subjects. From this continent, the first known brain surgery was performed. Cesarean section was developed. Vaccinations took place. Skin grafting took place. Tooth extraction, dentures, autopsy, and the process of embalming that has preserved human remains for centuries. If you saw King Tut, a lot of him was still around because they knew how to embalm somebody. From this continent came the first accurate calendar that's only a quarter of a day different from the calendar of today. From this continent came great agriculturists who had developed grain and spices. From this continent came the development of great oceanographers, astronomers, and builders who studied the stars and the ocean's currents and became the first to come to the New World. 700 years before Columbus.
That's right.
Not 7 years, but what? 700 years before Columbus. Read Dr. Ivan von Sertima's book, They Came Before Columbus. For years, we were told that the first black folks in what is the United States came from Angola in 1619 to the colony of Jamestown as indentured servants, who, like other poor white folks, signed an indenture to work 47 years in exchange for freedom and land. Not true. Some 500 years ago, one Garrido arrived in Florida. He was a free black man who joined the conquistadores to seek his fortune in the New World. He later joined with Juan Ponce de Leon in the colonizations of Cuba and Puerto Rico, and in 1513 he joined de Leon's well-known expedition to Florida in search of the Fountain of Youth. Garrido claimed to have been the first to plant and harvest wheat in the New World. Read Matthew Restall's Black Conquistadors, because Garrido was not the only one who came to the New World as a conquistador. We were called the Moors in Spain.
That's right. That's right.
Read about ourselves. Read also the book by Dr. Henry Gates. Read about yourself. These indentured servants, white and black, did not prove to be a steady workforce. And white folks were looking for a steady workforce. They started with the Indians. But the Indians knew the territory better than they did.
Amen.
And so they ran off, and they died in multiple ways of measles and smallpox and mumps. But Africans had been trading with Europeans for years, so they didn't die quickly. They had already become great agriculturalists, so they were better suited, it was thought, to become slaves. Did the first slavery occur in the South? No, it did not. The first slavery in 1660 occurred in Massachusetts. They enacted laws creating slavery of black folks, and the other colonies followed. No, slavery didn't start in the South, but in the New England colonies. Try being black and getting a taxi after dark in Boston or New York even today. Lest we forget. During Black History Month, we are traditionally regaled with stories of individuals such as Frederick Douglass and Rosa Parks and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and President Barack Obama, and well, we should be. We will also need to know, as you have met several individuals here this morning who were trailblazers right here in Arkansas. You need to know that Joseph Carter Corbin, chief clerk of the Little Rock Post Office in 1872, was the first superintendent of public schools from 1873 to 75. Maybe if he were still around, we would not suffer discriminating labeling of our public schools. James G. White served in the State House and Senate along with the largest number of blacks to ever hold office in Arkansas. Mifflin Gibbs was born in Pennsylvania but became eventually the first municipal judge in this state. Or maybe we should talk about Scipio Africanus Jones putting his life on the line so that black people could have a modicum of freedom.
Amen.
Maybe we ought to talk about Dr. William Townsend, Dr. Jerry Jewell, Henry Wilkins, Attorney Richard Mays as members of the first 4 members of the General Assembly since Reconstruction. They paved the way for us. The first African-American woman, Dr. Irma Hunter Brown, paved the way for us. The first black mayor of Little Rock, Charles Bussey. And remember, we only missed by a smidgen having a black mayor right here in North Little Rock. And guess what? That dream is still alive. And we can make it happen. Today, the mayors of the 2 largest cities in Arkansas are African American. Frank Scott Jr. and George McGill. Both the Pulaski County Sheriff and County Clerk were African American. Eric Higgins and Terry Hollingsworth. We created our own colleges and universities. Arkansas Baptist, Shorter College, Philander Smith. And though created by the state, AM&N has been systematically underfunded. We fight every day in the legislature for our colleges and universities to be treated fairly. Now there is an effort afoot to change the funding formula for public colleges and universities, which could result in UAPB losing money. I want you to write the governor's office and tell them to keep the current college funding formula. Should this happen, I'll let DeWanna know, who should let you know, and you need to let somebody else know, so that everybody knows. But let me say this to you. My time is almost up as a legislator. Next year, Senator Stephanie Flowers goes home. There are only 3 African Americans in the Senate today. And although this isn't about me, it is about you. Because I know I fought very hard for you. Stephanie, Joyce, and I are sometimes lone voices crying in the wilderness. So it's important because you need to know that Joyce and I cannot run again. Who will replace us is in your hands. You see, we've got to start now deciding what we're going to do. Amen. But the guy say, what you going to do? Well, we need to decide today and begin talking about what we're going to do. First of all, we are going to answer the census. Everybody in this room must be counted. Amen. The census comes around next year and we say, I'm not telling them all my business. Well, that cuts down on money for Medicare. It cuts down on money for schools. It cuts down on everything that's important to our community. We must be what? Counted. When a census person comes around, I want you to answer the census so that we can get adequate highway funding for our cities, so that we can get health care for our kids through CHIP. Everything centers around this what? Census. So you don't have time to say, they're just trying to be in my business. We must participate. And then we've got to come together. Jamie and I, Representative Jamie Scott and I are going to have some meetings around here to talk about the future. We cannot wait to 2022 when Joyce Elliott and I leave the Senate to decide who's going to replace us. And with that census, they're going to determine how they draw the lines to determine where we will serve. We are not in charge of that anymore as Democrats. Will there be any predominantly black districts? You can't take it for granted. Right now, I'm in probably the most gerrymandered district in the state. But because I know people from everywhere, because I've been around here a minute, it wasn't as hard for me to run as it might be somebody new. I represent North Little Rock, Maumelle, Sherwood, Jacksonville, Wrightsville, and all points in between. We gotta know that whomever draws those lines, draw them so that there are still 3 black majority Senate districts at least. Talking to you now, I'm off my script. It's just time for us to talk together. Just talk to you. We've got to demand it. When we wanted the holidays of Dr. King separated, you guys came together and you wrote letters to your senators and representatives. And it happened. Well, we need to make sure that we don't lose a single black majority district in this state, whether it's in the House or in the Senate. Because if we don't have somebody fighting for us, they will be fighting against us. Because we just had the conversation the other day where little white guys were going to explain to us what Dr. King was about. Not a good move. We have sanitized Dr. King to the point that he seems toothless. He was never a toothless tiger. Listen to the first part of the I Have a Dream speech. He didn't come there with a dream. He had a vision. And he had a mission. Because he came to the Capitol to cash a check marked what? Insufficient funds, as far as its citizens of color are concerned. And we cannot do anything if we don't become involved in what is happening in our society. This is critical. Amen. They've already made it mandatory that you have to have a voter ID. Get a voter ID. That's right. We've got to inconvenience ourselves. We already have in law that if you have completed your papers, you can go back and vote if you're a felon. We're one of the first states, only states in the Union that have. So when you meet people on the street and they tell you, well, I can't vote, I got a record, you tell them, if you're off your papers, you can vote. Amen. Next year is a critical election, not only here at the state level, but at the local level. Had we not gotten out in massive numbers, do you think Eric Higgins would be sheriff or Terry Hollingsworth would be county clerk? We don't show up enough, and I'm going to say it, for runoff elections, and Tracy would have been mayor. I voted for him once, he should have won then. No, that's not how that works. That's not how that works, okay? So I say to you today that we have work to do. Yes. And that each of us in our history had some grandmama who paid a poll tax so you could vote. Amen. Each one of us has somebody in our history that bet on us so that we be where we are today. Yes, yes, yes. I had a grandmother named Ophelia, a mother named Ernestine, who took the deeds to their homes, to the bank, so that they could pay for us to get a college education. Yes, they bet on us. We dared not let them down. We've got to bet on our children like my mama and grandmother did. And we got to understand that as we write our story, nothing will take place without a struggle. If God sent his only son here to die for us, he entered and made it clear that we have a struggle. And so I leave you with the words of Frederick Douglass, who said very simply, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom, and that's what this church and that's what education gives us, want the crops without plowing up the ground. They want the rain without the thunder and the lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its mighty water. This struggle that we're in may be a moral one, or it may be a physical one, or it may be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has. It never will. We may not get all we pay for, but we must certainly pay for all we get. Let us stand together. Let us speak together. Let us be together as one, lest we forget.